What is going on, guys? It's Comethazine Rotano here, giving you the second installment of my top 10 albums of the year list. And here you can see my top 10 songs of the year from Spotify's Wrapped. Shout out Spotify. You can see my Spotify link in the description so you can check out all my sick playlists from different genres. But also there's some Avett Brothers on this top 10 songs. You can thank my mom for that, even though I don't have any problems with Avett Brothers. But we have the top 10 albums of the year 2019. Later in the week, we'll be getting another top 10 albums of something. It's going to be a surprise, so stay tuned to the end of this video where I will explain what my next video will be. You guys might have some ideas, being that it is 2019, but stay tuned to the end. You can see what it is. So let's get into our top 10 albums of 2019, starting with some honorable mentions. Alright, our first honorable mention is Perfect 10 from DJ Mustard, who now only goes by Mustard, even though I prefer his DJ Mustard tag, Mustard on the beat, ho. And this album had some of my favorite beats of the year, specifically Pure Water, which features the Migos. Probably my favorite beat of the year. I'll give you a little sample of it right here. Like, that violin sample melody is amazing. Probably DJ Mustard's best beat since Rack City, in my opinion. Really a great song. A lot of the other songs in this album were great. Ballin' with Roddy Ricch. Some of the other songs in this weren't great. The feature song wasn't great. The Thug and Gunna collab wasn't great. The Nipsey Hussle song, which was, I believe, Jay-Z's second song of the year in his top 50 list he released recently. I don't know. All these weird posthumous Nipsey Hussle songs seem a little weird and kind of money grabbing, in my opinion. I'm sure Mustard was a big collaborator with Nipsey Hussle, but I don't know. Some of them kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but album overall pretty good. Our next honorable mention is Juice WRLD's Death Race for Love. Unfortunately, Juice WRLD did pass away a couple weeks ago, but if this is the last album we get from him, it was a great album and a good send-off for him. It really showed how his artistic creativity and song creation was growing as he grew as an artist. This, compared to Goodbye and Good Riddance, was obviously a great step in the right direction. The only reason it's not on my top 10 album list is because it's a little long and bloated. I'm not sure why he made it 22 songs. Obviously, in the streaming area, making long songs is kind of the new norm, or long albums with lots of songs. However, while there is some low points, all the highs are amazing. Robbery, Who Shot Cupid, Ring Ring. This is a great last album, and I think it's a shame that we won't get to see more from him because he was a great artist in the works. Alright, the last honorable mention goes to Lil Peep and his, what I believe will be his final posthumous album, Everybody's Everything. We might get another collab album with I Love McConan, which I've heard rumors about, but this might be his last solo album, and this is how you do a posthumous album. Obviously, his mom took a lot of care to what Gus's wishes would be. We have some unreleased songs that were released prior but not released on Spotify, as in Witchblades and all these other Lil Tracy collabs. We also have some new songs that were never released, period, like Move On, Belgium, and What I Lie, all great songs. And these Gabe collabs. Overall, this is a great posthumous release. In comparison to the XXXTentacion final album release, which came out a couple weeks ago, not a great album. Clearly a Frankenstein concoction with like 30-second snippets of X posted on songs with random features that probably wouldn't have collabed with him if he was still alive. While there are some good songs to the album, the whole thing feels kind of dirty and like a money grab opportunity from his mom. This, on the opposite end, is a great representation of Lil Peep's life and a great send-off to who is probably one of the best emo rappers of his era. Alright, moving on to the actual top 10 list, we have The World Is Yours 2 coming in at number 10, an album by Rich the Kid, a follow-up to his first studio-length album, The World Is Yours 1, which came out last year. This is The World Is Yours 2, which I believe is a far more consistent, put-together album than The World Is Yours 1, which had some good high points but a lot of low points. This, on the opposite end, is a far more consistent album, one that I enjoyed a lot more, and surprisingly, because there's a lot of complaints recently about Rich the Kid kind of having a very similar flow in most of his songs, kind of getting redundant, almost a little boring. And this, he changes up a lot. Obviously, includes a lot of features, because him, like his audience, knows that he can't really carry a song by himself very well, so he includes lots of features, and the features all come through. Specifically, the Miguel and Ty Dolla $ign song comes out with a really good kind of summer anthem poppy song. The Tory Lanez song comes out with a good collab, very summer feel. And the Nav song, which, if you know me, I don't really like Nav. He feels really robotic and a terrible artist, but it's a good collab. And my favorite collab from the album is the Takeoff Lil Pump song, the Rockets collab, which is probably one of the second or third best songs in the album, along with the Young Boy Never Broke Again song, which, I mean, I've never heard an NBA Youngboy song feature that I didn't like. He's almost one of those spotless artists that will always upgrade a song to one of the best songs in the album. I mean, even the solo songs of this album don't really get repetitive or stale. They all don't overstay their welcome. They're a lot shorter than some of the collab songs. Specifically, Splashin', which is probably my favorite Rich the Kid song of all time, and probably one of the top 10 singles of the year. And overall, this album turns out to be a great follow-up for Rich the Kid. I like to see where he continues on in the future and hopes he can, change up his flow a little bit, because, yeah, it does get repetitive, but I could see some great musical evolution in his future, so shout out Rich the Kid.
Hey, we can fuck little mama, I can lip lock. Could you spend 100 on some new socks?
Alright, coming in at number 9, we have kind of a cheat doodle on the list. I'm just gonna put DaBaby as an artist in general, number 9. I've never seen an artist have such a great year as DaBaby. This man rose from nothing to being one of the top artists of the whole year, a feature artist that everyone's clamoring for, be it Lil Nas X, Post Malone, Lizzo, a lot of big artists from the year, all going for a DaBaby feature. This man released 2 great projects, the mixtape Baby on Baby and his first studio-length album, Kirk. There's great songs on both albums. My favorite from Kirk being Vibes, but all these other songs being great. Bop, Toes featuring Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo, really featuring his frequent collaborator Stunna for Vegas, the Migos feature, the Kevin Gates feature, even the Nicki Minaj feature, as an artist that I've been kind of tipsy-turny with in the last couple of years. It's liking some of the stuff she's done, not liking some of the other stuff she's done. But his debut mixtape, well, not his debut mixtape, but his mixtape that put him on the map, had 3 of the biggest singles of the entire year: Going Baby, Babysitter, and obviously Suge, which is going to be my top song that he's released this year. Probably my second favorite single of the whole year, only following behind Polo G's Pop Out, which I think is one of the greatest party songs ever released. Suge, on the other hand, is a great song. It put him on the map. It's currently at 300 million plays. DaBaby really bursted onto the scene, and overall, I think putting him as an artist in general at the number 9 spot is perfectly worthy, and I love to see where he moves on in the future with all the great songs he released just this year alone.
Let's go. You know it's baby, nigga.
Coming at number 8, we have Ramirez's Son of Serpentine. Ramirez is a Grave 5'9" artist signed to the Suicide Boys label and a frequent collaborator with them. And this album definitely shows some of the influences he has from his contemporary, be it the Suicide Boys, but it also really shows his own diversity as an artist. I expected a lot of bangers on this album, from songs like Mosh Pit Killa featuring Zilla Kami, and the brave and quite bold Hitler diss he decided to release. I mean, wow, what a shocking claim to diss Hitler, but all these songs from the first half of the album really do live up to the expectations I had, be it Mosh Pit Killa through Lay It Down, but afterwards we start to get a pretty different album, from Liquid Sunshine down to P.O.P., a really 80s influence, kind of like nostalgic vibe. A lot of beats from I believe a lot of the beats in this album were from Mikey the Magician, one of the frequent underground collaborators with Puya, Ramirez, a lot of these underground guys, Fat Nick. Mikey the Magician starts off with a lot of banger beats, but then he moves on to these crazy 80s influence beats with a lot of samples from like older songs, and it creates a really interesting like divide between the first half and the second half, with these last two songs kind of thrown in. I believe these were singles he'd released years before he decided to like bump up his streaming numbers with, but overall, this is a really interesting album. If it had just been bangers throughout, I don't know if it could have made my list, but the great divide between the bangers and these 80s influence kind of more mellow, laid-back tracks really creates a great album. And if this is your first introduction to Ramirez, which it probably will be, I'd recommend it heavily. My favorite song is Two Step Stevie. You'll get a sample of it at the end, but if you guys want to check out a great underground artist, check out this album in Ramirez.
I'm in that third lane switching. Bitches know me, yes, I'm forgiving. Soon as I fuck them, I dump them out the whip and start to rip.
Coming in at number 7, we have Young Thug's So Much Fun, an album that I was so much surprised at how much I liked it, because Young Thug for me is an artist that I've always enjoyed songs from, but his projects have always been really hit and miss. There's some songs that are borderline unlistenable, and then some songs that are really good. But this album was probably his by far most consistent project he's ever released. There were some songs that in my opinion weren't my favorite, but unlike his previous projects, the songs that I didn't like were still good songs. Like, they had artistic qualities that just weren't in my taste the greatest songs, but songs like Sup Mate and Surf, I've seen lots of praise for. They just weren't my cup of tea, but overall, this project is most consistent project he's ever released. Lots of great features, but on the opposite end of the features, all his solo songs in this album are great. Lil Baby, which uses a flow from Future's early release this year, First Off featuring Travis Scott, which was one of my favorite songs of the year. Young Thug uses the flow on his own song, which honestly, it's a good companion song to the original song. A lot of the features, Lil Uzi Vert, Lil Duke, Lil Keed, frequent collaborators with Young Thug, because I believe he's signed them. You don't really see these guys in other albums. They're kind of Young Thug clones in a way, but they all contribute to their songs. The J. Cole Travis Scott song, obviously the big single from this album that became very popular, great song. The Nav collab, terrible. Nav, while on the Rich the Kid song, did a good feature, not so much on this song. A lot of the other features kind of were questionable. Hot was a song I enjoyed, but with the remix released later, I think it rose the song to even higher levels. And overall, only songs like Sup Mate did I think veered into the unlistenable point where Young Thug sounds like Doodle Bob, like on the original collab he did of Rich Homie Quan, Lifestyle, one of the worst songs of all time. But overall, this is a great demonstration of Thug's quality, and I think it really pushed him more into the mainstream light than any of his other projects before did. So if you haven't checked this album out yet, and you kind of gave up on Young Thug, definitely check it out.
Why the Cardi ass off with the Gucci scarf, yeah. I can't run that top. Big pointers in a watch.
Coming in at number 6, we have underground artist Comethazine, who recently made one of the XXL Freshman of the Year lists. And with this album, BAWSKEE 2, a sequel to BAWSKEE, which was an album full of ignorant bangers, followed it up with another album full of ignorant bangers. An album that I enjoyed more than the first one, and full of so many ignorant bangers that I enjoyed pretty much every single one of them. All of them are very brief, don't really overstay their welcome, with only one song over 2 minutes. However, all the production on this album is great. All the hooks are catchy and sticky, get stuck in your head. And overall, this is just a great kind of like throw it on and just rage out type of album. I mean, there's no real lyrical insight in Comethazine's songs. It's just random ass shit that he throws at the wall, and it's like, this is catchy, this is good. My favorite song being How Do You Do, but almost every other song on this album gets stuck in my head after one listen. It's just catchy. You gotta understand why it's good until you give it a listen. Look at this, 10 songs, 17 minutes. You can give it a listen if you want. Comethazine is a great artist. Definitely sticks in his own lane. He isn't trying to be the most lyrical or conscious rapper of all time. He knows what he's good at, and he does it well. So if you like ignorant bangers that are short and will fill up your gym playlist, Give my man Comethazine a lesson, specifically BAWSKEE 2, but BAWSKEE 1 and BAWSKEE 3.5, because he's like, fuck 3, I don't want to do 3, I want to do 3.5. All 3 projects are great, give it a listen.
Bitch, yo, bitch, how do you do? Yo, came with the 38, me with a body or two.
Moving on to the top 5, we have number 5, which is I'm Him by Kevin Gates. Kevin Gates, if you don't know, is my favorite rapper of all time. The man can perfectly switch from a hard, aggressive rap flow into a beautiful melodic singing on the hook, better than any artist I've ever seen before. And he's also one of the artists that can perfectly carry a 17-song project without a single feature. He's so diverse, so able to fit every niche and cranny of the rap genre that he can do a project like this by himself and make it one of the best projects of the year. Overall, this is one of the better projects he's released in recent years, definitely topping the Luca Brasi 3 and By Any Means 2. Not that they're bad projects, but this is his far most consistent project following his release from prison. My favorite song being By My Lonely, a very beautiful and kind of moving ode to speaker knockers, influential artist who passed away several years ago, far too young and unable to release more music. But By My Lonely is a great ode to him. A lot of these other bangers, Push It, Let It Go, are great songs, and there's a lot of introspective songs on this album too. Wallace Talking, Fly Again. Gates is at his best when he's able to get into his feelings, really rap about his emotions at the time. He does it far better than many of the artists in the same class as him, and Wallace Talking, Fly Again are great examples of it, and By My Lonely also. I'll give you a snippet of it right at the end of this, because it's a great song. Here it is.
I had to make a couple bands by my lonely. Fuck nigga, I don't wanna be your homie. Speaker knockers, I just ordered up, I got 100.
Moving on to number 4, we have a Young Band's Misunderstood. If you guys are kind of into the whole hip-hop review kind of, I don't even know what to call it. I guess the Twitter scene led by DJ Academics. You'll know that there's a lot of trash thrown by DJ Academics at this album and at Young Bands, but whatever he says goes out the window. DJ Academics is a clown because this is a great album, and one I was actually very surprised at how much I enjoyed, because all the previous snippets of Young Bands I had heard on songs like his feature on Future Song from the Superfly album, I didn't really enjoy. A lot of his solo songs I didn't really enjoy, but when I listened to this album, it really blew me out of the water. The whole album is great. It's got a lot of features in the album that complement Young Band's style very well. Be it the locked up YMW Melly, the also locked up O3 Greedo, and the passed away XXXTentacion, and also Future, who features a lot on the album besides just this yeah. I believe Future actually executive produced it or had some sort of influence in the production. So you see his thumbprints all over the project. But this project overall, it really flips through different genres. It goes through like emo rap to just straight trap. And songs like Blah Blah Blah, which had a snippet that was infamously very popular before the release of this project. And songs like Prada Zombie, which is my favorite song on the project, really gets into the emo trap vibe. The XXX feature, which is more so a tribute to him than an actual feature, using O3 Greedo as the main template of the song. This really cements Young Bands as a great artist, rising up in the little niche that other artists such as Gunna and DaBaby have kind of taken a more mainstream approach to. Young Bands is showing that he too should be a voice in this genre, one that gets more popularity than he is getting at the moment. So give Young Bands a chance and listen to Misunderstood, which unfortunately I believe didn't chart on the Billboard charts, but you know, maybe if some of you guys listen to it, he can get some more sales, boast his wallet, his bag a little bit. Give it a listen.
Good, no need them start. Shit on these niggas, I'm sorry, not sorry. Dropping the top, I'm a flex in the Rari. I am so off of this, remember my march. Smashing this whole shit, that shit apart.
Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Road to Falcone by Rob Banks. Rob Banks is an underground artist who has a famous father you may have heard of, Shaggy. Not Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, the It Wasn't Me or Mr. Boombastic Shaggy of pop fame. This album is what I believe is the introduction to his final album, which is going to be split into 3 parts, with Road to Falcone being the first part. His sort of magnum opus and goodbye to the genre, if he actually quits music. We'll wait to see, because many artists have previously said they're going to quit music and don't quit music, especially someone as young as Rob Banks. I don't know if he actually will, but overall this was a great introduction to his magnum opus, if it will be his final album. He switches genres pretty well, going from kind of trappy bangers like Top Man to more laid-back auto-tune crooners like Fantasia. All the features do well, it being that they're not the most well-known artists of all time, aside from Thousand Band Fani, who also is not that well-known, but they all complement Rob Banks well. He really demonstrates his ability as a songwriter and his flow as a rapper throughout many of the songs, spitting really long verses with great diverse flows as he speeds up and slows down with the varying beats. Every song on this record feels unique and diverse. Some of the songs could have been really good, like Hentai was a great song with a great beat. Only problem is the hook is really weird. I don't know if it appeals to many people that don't frequent hentai as their Google searching, but a lot of these other songs don't flow into his weird anime obsessions, and it allows for a more accessible project than a project like Cloverfield 3, which you can see from the album cover is a bit unique. But I can't help but mention this project and not mention Connected, his project from earlier this year, a collab with Wi-Fi's Funeral. And this itself was a great project, with my favorite song being Like Me, but this whole project was great. Wi-Fi and Rob complement each other well, and overall this is a great year for Rob Banks, with Road to Falcone being a great release and this earlier collab little EP being a great project as well. So if you haven't listened to Rob Banks recently, check him out. He's doing some great work.
I don't like you, you don't like me, you won't fight me in my white tee.
Alright, moving on to the number 2 spot, we have Anarchy by Lil Tracy, the debut studio album by Lil Tracy, the goth boy clique and frequent collaborator with Lil Peep. Lil Tracy, since the passing of Lil Peep, has moved on in the emo trap direction and has been really maturing his sound, really simplifying it into a great direction. This album itself rivals one of the greatest emo trap albums of all time, being his best friend, his late best friend's project, Come Over When You're Sober Part 1. Anarchy, it compares to it in many ways, being a great, short, condensed emo trap album with lots of songs that really spill out the emotions of its artists. A lot of these songs vary different topics, being the troubles of fame, the troubles of a relationship, the troubles of fame and a relationship, and just troubles in general in life. And this overall is a great project that really splays out Tracy's emotions. I think he's been working on this project for many years. He's been putting a lot of effort into really condensing it into the best 9 songs you could put out. This is a great introduction for any unknown people who haven't really heard Lil Tracy. He uses a lot of similar styles to Lil Peep. Obviously, they both came up in the same sort of genre, the same musical group, so you'll definitely hear a lot of similar influences between the two, but Lil Tracy does a good job of continuing the path that Lil Peep paved, and made a lot of great songs, including Tightrope, which is my favorite song on the project. So give it a listen.
Woo. Yeah, bustin' out on her face. Then I threw out the cape. Cause that bitch can't get saved. Took my foot off the brake.
Alright, moving on to the number 1 album of 2019. I wanted to make this list as diverse and kind of different from 2018 as possible, so there weren't any repeating artists. Not that some of the artists in 2018 didn't release good projects this year, be it Post Malone of Hollywood's Bleeding, an album that I did think was very good, but definitely inferior to Beer Bongs and Bentley from last year and his original project Stoney. But one artist this year released a project so good that I couldn't help but repeat their inclusion on this list this year. And I'm sure you guys know who it is. It released an amazing project, so without further ado, number one album of 2019 is Jesus is King from Kanye West. What a spectacular album, and just great follow-up to Kids See Ghosts from last year. A real controversial album, an amazing statement to today's society. No, I'm just messing with you guys. The album sucked. We're going to City Morgue's As Good As Dead. This album was my favorite album of the year, bar none. A great follow-up to their volume 1 of this project from last year, which I believe I put at number 3. This year, their follow-up, their sequel, is number 1. Just an unrelenting banger after banger album with some amazing cuts, some great features, very sparsely included from Denzel Curry and IDK, two artists that I got the pleasure of seeing live. They really complement Zilla Kami and So Smula very well. Overall, this album just shows their growth as artists from the previous year. So Smula in particular really steps up his game and gives some of the best verses of the album. Zilla Kami obviously is as great as ever, giving really infectious hooks on songs that shouldn't have as great melodic hooks as they do. This album is, if you haven't listened to it yet, has just the greatest diversity of kind of mellow bangers to hard-hitting bangers. Like, how can you make a mellow banger? Well, City Morgue found out a way to do it with the balloons and other songs. Like, Drano itself is kind of mellow, even though it features Denzel Curry and has one of the hardest-hitting beats of the album. It really helps that Mike Dean of Travis Scott fame, if you haven't heard of Mike Dean, he's a producer that works a lot with Travis Scott and a lot of the other artists today, such as he produced 2 Chainz' Good Drink, but he executive produced this project, and you can definitely hear his influence and see how he really stepped up their sound and made their beats far more diverse than their first project. And overall, this is just a great project, and if you love underground bangers like Suicide Boys, Puya, other artists of this caliber, Night Lavelle, check out City Morgue's Volume 2, As Good As Dead. The greatest project of this year, in my opinion. Alright, we'll see you guys in the outro.
Woke up drenched in the sweat so cold that it froze my home. Wanna go to hell, cause at least it's warm on the brimstone floor. No love, no more, I'm getting frilled. And my face is not the same as.
Alright guys, that was the top 10 albums of 2019. Like I said, I was going to reveal the next top 10 album video, which will be the top 10 albums of the decade. That will be from 2010 to this year, 2019. Be sure to look out for that video in the next coming days or maybe weeks, we'll see. But overall, I hope you enjoyed my video. This is obviously just my opinion. There were a lot of great albums released this year. My list kind of stayed in the hip-hop genre. Obviously, there were some good pop albums from this year. I see a lot of people naming Billie Eilish, Lizzo in their top 10 album lists. This is my opinion. If you guys got different opinions, leave it in the comments or check out other lists. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
For my life, can't say that, girl, don't tell me you could say that shit. All she want is payback.